Film, gaming, pop culture, welcome to episode 24 of Everything is Permitted here at Wade's Comic Madness. I'm your host, Julian Brown, alongside my co-host, Matt Reppert. How you doing?
I am doing better than you are, man. You're...
Yeah, I'm a little under the weather, but as they say on stage and in the biz, the show must go on. The show must go on. So yeah, I got a little cold, but we're here.
You're powering through it. You're being a warrior. I respect that.
I'm trying to. Well, the excellent wife of mine, the mother of dragons, Karen Brown, made me some awesome tea with some honey, and I also got my water next to me, so I got like the cold, what do you call it, like pack to keep me going. So we're powering through, but we're here for episode 24. We have a fun show planned for you today. We're going to be talking E3. It was quite the E3. It's had some really cool things announced, and there are also some blunders. We are also going to do Matt's new brainchild, yet another one. I say it later. We pre-recorded that segment. You seem to come up with all the good ideas, and I just give them the stupid names. But you may not like that they're good ideas.
we'll see where we stand on this.
After but we'll be doing the classic casting call. We'll be recasting the Indiana Jones Trilogy, so that's also coming up. We have an announcement. We are doing another giveaway, and we'll be doing that through another listening keyword. So, have to listen to the show if you want it, but we are going to be giving away a digital copy of How to Train Your Dragon: The Hidden World, the final installment in the How to Train Your Dragon trilogy. So, we'll be giving a digital code away. So, later in the show, listen for the keyword. You'll know it when you hear it. So we have that coming up, and we also, as always, have some rants and raves. Matt, I will let you go first. I know what you've been struggling with the past couple of weeks here.
I've actually been struggling with online ordering through actually at least two different companies. One was FYE. Now, if you don't know FYE, they're one of those like mall stores that you would always be in.
They used to be a lot bigger.
There used to be a lot of them, yeah. And actually, I thought they went out of business, to be honest with you.
Well, they rebranded.
Yeah, they were called something else before FYE. They merged with another company, I think, or something along those lines.
I mean, I remember like the giant ass FYE right off Broad Street in Philly.
Yeah. So basically, what FYE is now is they're essentially like a pop culture / used movies, DVDs, things you can sell them. DVDs and Blu-rays, and then they'll sell them back. You can actually get some pretty good bargains there, and that's one of the reasons why I go there sometimes. So basically, the thing is that I'm a member of FYE's VIP Backstage Pass, it's called. I pay like $10 a month or something for it. I get good discounts on steelbooks and other things like that through their site, and So basically, however, a couple months back is they were releasing an exclusive steelbook of the movie The Warriors, a 1979 cult classic.
Come out to play.
Yep. If you've never seen The Warriors, I recommend it. It was filmed in that era of New York City that it's like the grungy period of New York City when like all the streets were dirty and like they're like you had
gang fights on the subway.
Yeah, gang fights. The subways were all graffitied up. It's like a fascinating period of history that I love, like seeing photos of. But anyway, is that they were doing a steelbook of The Warriors, a movie which I had long wanted to buy, but I was always like, oh, maybe I'll get it. But as soon as I saw they were doing a steelbook, I was like, I'm in. All right. So I did a pre-order, and basically the day it was supposed to come out, I basically got an email that I had sitting in there saying, your order was canceled. And I was like, what? And then followed up by another email that said, ignore that first email. Your order's not canceled. We'll send you the movie when we have it. And I'm like, what? When you have it? I'm like, what the hell is going on with this? So I actually emailed customer support and basically, was told like, yeah, we'll send you a copy when we get it. So I was like, but it came out today. Like, how do you not have copies of this? Like, and so I actually called the stores and, they didn't have it. And then one girl at one of the stores was like, I think it got pushed back in July. And I'm like, it did what? Like, eventually I did get an email and I just got it in, yesterday or Friday. I can't remember the day. Basically, I got it about a week and a half or so after it came out, after it was supposed to come out. So that pissed me off for starters. And the other thing is that I did a digital order for the movie Hot Fuzz because I wanted to complete the Cornetto trilogy. And I went through the smaller website, and this guy who basically runs it says, I will email you the digital code. He apparently forgot about me. So I went days because he says, "Oh, within 24 hours you have the code." That's what he has on his site, and I was like, "Okay, cool." And he didn't send me the freaking code, and it was getting to the point where I was like, did he just take my $7 or whatever I paid for this digital copy of this movie and run with it? So I literally emailed him like 2 or 3 times. I messaged him another time on his official Facebook page that his little business has. And then finally he got back to me after a weekend and said, "Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot. I'll send you the code right away." And I'm just like, look, if whether you're a big business or a small business, when somebody orders something, keep track of it, get it to them. I mean, I can't stress this.
And Matt, you said it near the beginning of your rant. Like, I thought FYE went out of business, and I realized there's one, right in the Oxford Valley Mall. Because, like I said, I remember they used to be big-ass department stores, like, that just went on for miles. They had downstairs with CDs and DVDs and games and everything. You went upstairs, they had a whole record collection. It used to be big, and then I think they downgraded into these mall stores, and I think they're really focusing on buying used and trading in. But I too ordered something from FYE. I did not have anywhere near the issues you did. If I didn't have any at all, I ordered a FYE exclusive Thor Funko Pop.
Okay.
Got to me no problem, but at the same time, it doesn't shock me that you had issues. This is a company that I'm guessing probably is on its last legs and not doing well.
I don't know. I don't know how it's doing, but I mean, and the sad thing is, I actually like FYE because I found like hard to find steelbooks there. I found like all sorts of. I found movies that I didn't even know were steelbooks. And as I said, I've gotten some good used Blu-rays. But the thing is that this is probably like the second or third order I've had through them that like has been screwed up in some way. Like a few months back, I put an order in because they had on their site like a used steelbook of the first Iron Man movie, as well as a used steelbook of Total Recall. I don't know if it was the new one or the old one, but I wouldn't mind owning either movie. And I waited like a week or two, never got a shipping confirmation, emailed customer support. They're like, "Oh, it was a glitch in the system that you're never allowed to, it never existed." And I'm just like, how the frick?
Never existed.
Like
Jesus
we
Christ.
don't have it for anything like that for order. I'm like, how the hell did your system suddenly say, "Oh yeah, we have used copies of this and you can go ahead and buy them," and then just
Well,
it never
it's
existed.
like when we pre-order things at the local Best Buy and they say they don't have them in stock. Like the day before, I was actually going to, because I got you your Captain Marvel copy because you had hooked me up and got me my copy of How to Train Your Dragon. They said they didn't have any in stock at Oxford Valley, and we went on our little mandate yesterday to Best Buy, and they had like probably like a good 50 steel books.
They had a bunch of copies.
Yeah, and those were still like, that's like when I went there that day, they had a bunch of them in stock. So who the hell knows what goes on with, actually like putting things in inventory. I used to do inventory at Trader Joe's, and it's not hard. It's not hard, but apparently it is. I have a rant about televisions and this world we're living in right now. I had my wife and I are not terribly happy right now. About 2 years ago, we bought a 49-inch LG, what would be considered a bargain 4K television. We didn't spend a lot of money on it. It was fine. One day, this is absolutely crazy, but the truth, I was cleaning it with, I buy the Monster cleaner and the stuff that like makes it smudge proof.
Yeah.
Cleaning it. I wasn't putting a lot of pressure. Screen cracked. Screen cracked.
Ouch.
Yeah, bullshit. So I called their support station, and they're like, it would cost you just as much to get the same TV to replace the panel, because panels make up like 80% of the TV.
Yeah.
So we get the higher up, we get a 55-inch of basically the same exact TV, because the model that we had got discontinued. And we've had it for a year and a half. Well, a year and a half, and my screen panel is failing. It is, Matt, we were watching the World Cup.
Yep.
And what color is my screen?
It has like this blue purple tint to it.
And since then, it's only gotten worse.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Oh, man.
Watching the game today was like almost unbearable. And again, it's the panel, it's failing, and it would cost me, close to $500. And again, it's like a bargain television. So
Yeah.
it was out of warranty. We did not get the Geek
Extended
Squad
warranty,
plan on it. And I'm really pissed off because, as my wife put it, as Karen put it, we're living in this ridiculous disposable economy where, you either you can get things fixed like an iPhone or, these fancy phones, but it costs you an arm and a leg.
Yeah.
And a lot of companies are also making things, whether it's actual physical hardware or software that is kind of like how does it go?
Planned obsolescence.
Yes, planned obsolescence. Like, I know that Apple does it with their operating systems. You know, they are meant to become obsolete, so you download the next one and the next one, but they're not necessarily compatible with the hardware that you have, so they make you go and buy the hardware. So we're pissed because we're not going to shell out the money to get a new panel when that panel will probably fail again. I was looking at TVs with you at Best Buy. I picked out one. We're obviously not going to go the bargain route. This time we're going to get a premium television.
Yeah.
Because when it comes to technology like this, it is better to buy, for, premium. When you're buying a hot, like a product like a television, which you want to last for more than a year and a half. But it's just bullshit that we're even without getting the warranty, like, if your panel's failing and it's only been a year and a half, warranty or not, like, that shit should be covered. And it's not, for some kind of manufacturing bug or whatever. It's infuriating that we have to live like this, whether it's a cracked screen or your battery starting to fail. It's just it's ridiculous.
I mean, honestly, and I know we talked about this when we were at Best Buy yesterday, and I said, like, I'm a cheap bastard with a lot of things in life. I really am. I get very about spending money on certain things. But there are a few things that I will pay the top dollar, the price for, and that's my electronics, essentially. Like my TVs, my computer parts, my things like that. Like, I will pay the extra couple hundred or whatever it is. Yeah, I'm not going to like it. I'm not going to like doing it. It goes against my inner, like, thriftiness that I've tried to cultivate over the last decade of my life. It's, like, the thing is that, like, Heather and I have had an LG, I think a 55 or 65 inch, I forget what it is, but we've had that TV pretty much since we moved into the house, and I've had no problems with it, and LG is a good known
And at the
company.
time, it was a premium version of whatever that model was.
Oh, yeah,
right?
it cost us, like, $2-3 grand, if I remember correctly.
And the TV that we're looking at right now, I think if we bought it in 2018, probably would have been $3,000. We're getting a 2018 model. I think it's going to end up costing us like $1,500, maybe $1,000 if I do their price match. And it is premium. It is an OLED, which is definitely miles above LED. I've been talking to people on Reddit about recommendations. Like you said, when it comes to electronics and buying things like this, it is better to buy premium. It doesn't mean that they don't still run into issues, and you're going to have to pay still an arm and a leg to get the extended warranty and the Geek Squad thing. But after dealing with these two television issues, I think it's worth it. Yeah,
I mean, that's the unfortunate reality of the world that we live in, is that, like, I mean, yeah, if you can afford to go higher end, like, I always recommend that to people. Like, look, if you can afford it, go that route. Because otherwise you're going to find yourself right back in this position in a year or two.
Listen, like, if it was up to me, and I even think at this point Karen wouldn't mind either, but we can't afford the 2019 model.
Yeah.
If we could, we probably would get that, just to be safe. But the 2018 model, I've heard nothing but amazing things about.
Yeah.
So going that route, it sucks that we have to get a new TV, though.
No, I totally understand.
I liked our TV. For what we needed, like, the 4K still looked good. But it
go 8K,
which is bullshit. Because what were you saying to me the other day that most of your eye can see?
I don't remember what the actual numbers are, but there's been a lot of studies done, because, like, there's TVs out now that are
Samsung.
8K, and I know even Microsoft, and we'll get to that at E3, is talking about, like, the new Xbox will be 8K or something like that. And I'm gonna tell you folks right now, don't believe that shit, because, like, the human eye can only perceive so many colors, so much clarity, so much depth. Like, there is actual physical limitation to what your mind and your eyes can perceive. So whenever you see, like, these hugely impressive, like, oh, it's 8K, like, that's going to be the thing.
Or AT&T with their fake 5G.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's basically like companies are trying to sell you on something that you cannot physically perceive.
And there should really be some antitrust suits with that, like, because that becomes a little bit of bullshit to me. Because the other thing is that cable isn't even putting 4K content out that you could watch regularly. So why are you putting out an 8K television when 4K isn't even the standard still? It's gaining popularity.
Yeah,
but most people still can't afford 4K. I mean, you could afford 4K televisions now, but, like, 4K Blu-ray players, 4K Blu-rays, Like, we just got there and you're releasing an 8K TV? Get the hell out of
We're
here.
not even in the era yet where every single movie gets a 4K release.
Correct.
Like most do. Any big title gets one, but I've bought numerous movies over the past year or two that are Blu-ray only or Blu-ray or DVD only. They do not have a 4K release. Period.
But I think it is important very briefly to talk about AT&T advertising. They were advertising 5G, and I think it was T-Mobile or one of the rival companies like called them out and was like, that's bullshit. The technology doesn't exist. You are advertising 5G that's running on your 4G LTE network.
Yeah.
The whole point of calling LTE long-term evolution was that you would never need to call something 5G or 6G or 7G ever again. The whole point was that it would be a long-term evolution and that the speeds would get better and better and better. Well, so advertising something that doesn't actually exist, like,
basically companies are trying to take advantage of people who always need to own the best, quote unquote.
Yes.
Like they need to own, like, oh, I don't have a 4K TV, I have an 8K TV, and it's like
shove it up your ass.
Well, and that's the thing. You know what? Look, if you can afford that, I'm happy for you. But once again, like, I assure you that there won't be any major discernible difference between an 8K TV and a 4K TV that your eye's going to perceive. And once, as you pointed out, like, what is going to be an 8K that you're going to watch?
Nothing.
Like what? Like there's no movies, no TV shows, nothing.
Maybe some YouTube content.
Even that. Like,
but
how many 8K cameras exist in the world that the average person can
that's
afford?
The thing. I think that movies shoot in 8K, but they are released and shown in 4K. I do believe, I could be wrong on this. Maybe some of my friends in the industry might know better than me, but I think a lot of movie cameras are 8K. Again, I could be absolutely, because I think the Dark Knight trilogy was shot in 8K, if I'm not mistaken. But that's getting to a whole another topic. We are going to get to the permitted minute in just a second, but I did forget to mention at the top of the show, I hope everyone had a wonderful Father's Day.
Yes.
Recording this on Father's Day. Karen made me some awesome chocolate chip pancakes this morning. And got me bacon and made it just the way I like it. So happy Father's Day to all you dads out there. We hope you enjoyed your day. It is time for a special Father's Day edition of
The Permitted Minute.
The Permitted Minute, and we will go in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go.
The rumor that Matt Reeves' The Batman film will have 6 villains gained some more traction this week, as is becoming more and more evident the film will feature the likes of Penguin, Catwoman, Firefly, the Mad Hatter, Riddler, and Two-Face, and we're out of breath.
At long last, the Sith... No, I'm just kidding. The Red Dead Redemption 2 soundtrack is finally being released. Look for it on July 12th.
At E3, Nintendo announced that the sequel to the critically acclaimed Zelda Breath of the Wild is in develop. It will feature the Hyrule map used in Breath of the Wild, and although there was some speculation to the contrary, it will not be connected to Majora's Mask.
Lobo, the famous bounty hunter from the Superman comics, who was introduced in the second season of Sci-Fi's Krypton, is getting his own spin-off series.
The famous prison fight scene from Daredevil Season 3 will not be eligible for an Emmy. The scene, which is 10 minutes in length without a single camera cut, is apparently too long, as the TV Academy was only expecting 3-minute or shorter clips. Also, Toy Story 4's review embargo has been lifted and debuted on Rotten Tomatoes to a perfect 100% score.
After complaints from fans regarding the look of the Avengers in the upcoming game from Square Enix, the studio confirmed that while they are taking other complaints very seriously, they will not be changing the outfits.
Didn't make
not
it.
Today, a first in a long time.
Yeah. These were longer ones, so we tried.
Were 7 seconds over. Hey, we lost one. That's the whole point, isn't it? Or not? I don't know. It's nice to test ourselves every now and then. Talking about the Avengers and Square Enix, that actually perfectly leads us into this past week, which of course was E3 down on the West Coast in Los Angeles. There was a lot of good. There was a lot of bad. Well, not a lot of bad, just mediocre.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, and the whole show was a rather mediocre, to be honest
Compared
with you.
to others.
Compared
Absolutely.
to others. Like, there weren't a lot of huge revelations. A lot of stuff got leaked beforehand.
It did. Let's just get right into it. Matt and myself, we're each going to kind of pick 2 wins and 2 duds from E3. Matt, why don't we start with your your 2 wins from this year's E3.
So basically, my 2 wins are I'm just gonna give both of my wins first, then I can break down why each of them won. My first win is actually Microsoft. I know a lot of people said Microsoft was blah, but basically Microsoft took over E3 this year. Like they essentially, it was almost their show. Now, granted, they didn't do a ton of like amazing stuff with it, and I'll get to that in a little bit as to why they didn't. But basically, Microsoft apparently announced at E3, and I could be wrong on this, the purchase of Double Fine Studios, which is a video game maker, Tim Schafer, who is well known for being a quirky, nice dude who makes these very fun original games, like Psychonauts is a Double Fine game. They made Broken Age, the crowdfunded Kickstarter game. Like, so Double Fine has been around for a few years. They've made a lot of games, and Microsoft purchasing them, as long as Microsoft doesn't try and stick their nose into Double Fine, like Double Fine is probably going to make at least 2 or 3 amazing, quirky games that are going to be cult classics just from the word go. Like, I can promise you that right now. Like, they're very original content.
And that's got to excite you because that's your thing a lot. Like, you like a lot of these indie titles. I'm not so much into them, but
I like games that stick with me. I like a game that, like, I play it has an amazing story, or I have a fun time, and even if I never pick it up again, I will recommend it to anybody else from that point forward. Like, a game doesn't need to have multiplayer and all these maps and all this extra DLC content. Doesn't need to have that for me. Like, give me a good experience that I can play through that sticks with me, you know, months or years after the fact, and that's all. If a game gives me that, that's all I can ask for, and I will be totally happy. So another thing that Microsoft did was they announced the Game Pass for the PC. And if you don't know what Game Pass is, it's basically their monthly subscription service where you can play pretty much almost any game in their library, and now they're porting it to the PC.
Is that basically their answer to PlayStation Now?
No, PlayStation Now is their answer to Game Pass. They did it before.
Oh, Game Pass.
Game Pass came out before PlayStation Now.
Oh, okay.
Basically, Microsoft, like, and I know we talked about this Microsoft has already been moving in that direction for at least a year and a half now. I think it's been. I know some people have Game Pass. They really like it because it'll let you play new releases at launch. As long as you have the pass, you can play the game as much as you want. No questions asked. It's all digital. So, and also Microsoft is apparently, they're kind of working together with Valve, the owners of Steam, to kind of work together. And I'll tell you this right now, is that if Microsoft and Valve forge some kind of unholy alliance,
Half-Life 3.
That's never going to happen. But if they forge some kind of unholy alliance, I mean, I can tell you right now is that Microsoft, like, just by default, Microsoft is going to crush most of the next generation if they work with Valve.
This is getting slightly off topic but I want to actually go to that point real quick about what will be the next console war. I actually read a very interesting headline today that it's not a fact, it's an opinion piece that Sony, even though they didn't have a presence at E3, and I'll actually get to that, has already won the console war for next generation because of PlayStation VR.
VR, honestly, is, and like we'll get slightly off topic, because I have no problems bashing VR. I've never liked VR. I didn't like motion capture gaming. Like, you know, like the Wii was a fun little toy. I didn't like when Microsoft did the Kinect. I didn't like PlayStation's Move, because the problem that I have with VR is it's a fad. That's all it is. It's a fad. It might be fun for you to play, but the thing is that for most VR, you're adding like probably a $200 VR headset at the very least on top of your console that you've already purchased. The thing is with most of those games is that VR can only do so much, because the thing is that because this whole thing of like, oh, you can do this lightsaber battle game, for example. Well,
I've played it. It's fun.
Well, the problem is that like you're going to be in your living room just swinging
Beat
wildly
Saber,
because there's no feedback. There's no, like, if I smash my saber in game into another guy's saber, it stops midair, and now you're essentially pushing. But in VR, essentially, you're just swinging wildly because you're trying to just hit it. And that's one of my issues with VR, is that there's no realistic way to determine feedback. And as I said, to me, it's a fad, like 3D.
I actually don't know if that's true, because if I remember correctly, I was playing Beat Saber. I believe it's on Oculus. And when I missed or I hit the squares, it had rumble. so you could feel it.
But that's still not the feedback I'm talking about. Like if I like say I'm playing a game where I'm swinging a sword and or let's say a war hammer. Let's say I'm taking this hammer and I'm swinging as hard as I can and it hits a wall and it comes to it in the game. It comes to a dead stop. In the real world, I'm swinging all the way through, and meanwhile the game is trying to register what I just did and try and reset itself. Like as I said, VR will never be what people think it is. Like people are like acting like it's like the frickin' holodeck from Star Trek.
Yeah.
It's not that.
No.
It will never be that. So to me, VR it's another fad that they're trying to push, and I don't think it's going to last.
But getting back to your point, like I do agree with you. If they make this relationship with Valve work, like that's massive.
Yeah.
That's really big.
Because basically the thing is that if Microsoft and Valve can work together to bring like especially some of those PC games to like console or something like that, like Microsoft just gained access to literally thousands of games. Like that of quirky stuff, of like fun stuff. I mean, like I have a PC and I play some
Valve
PC.
do Portals?
Yeah, Valve did Portal.
Yeah.
And I mean that could, and once again, like I'm probably overselling what the relationship could be, but maybe Microsoft could convince Valve, like, hey, sell us the rights to make Portal or something like that, another Portal game or something like that. So also Microsoft announced the new Xbox Elite controller, which, you know, if you're a controller junkie like I am, that's a big thing. I love the Elite controller. It has a nice heft to it. I haven't looked at the new controller yet. And also, even though I know exactly what this is, it was just a publicity thing. Keanu Reeves being on stage at the Cyberpunk 2077 at the
Is that your second win?
No, that's not.
Oh, okay.
But basically, but Keanu Reeves being on stage, and if you haven't seen the video, basically Keanu Reeves, he's in Cyberpunk 2077. He plays a character. He was digitized. He did his roles and everything for it. And basically, he's out talking about the game. And he's like, oh, you know, it's going to be breathtaking. And some dude in the audience just goes, "You're breathtaking." And Keanu like just goes, "No, you're breathtaking." And basically, the guy in the audience who yelled that is getting a free copy of the collector's edition of the game.
That's awesome.
So yeah, so basically, like, you know, as I said, Microsoft is my first winner. My second winner is Square Enix, because they announced the Final Fantasy VII remake, which I'm not a fan of the way the gameplay is, but I can acknowledge the history and legitimacy of Final Fantasy VII, the original one. I played the hell out of it on PC back in the day. I know a lot of people are excited. They also showed off more of Dying Light 2. I like the first one. And also Marvel's The Avengers, which I know a lot of people are looking forward to. So those were my two wins.
So I'll piggyback off you for a second, and I'd say that my first win that I had was also Square Enix. I loved what I saw from Final Fantasy VII, and unlike you, I'm actually very excited about how they've changed the combat. It looks really fun. It looks immersive. I'm really stoked for this. When I played Final Fantasy VII, I never played it multiple times. I know our social media coordinator Brittany has. I think you have. It was maybe I think I played through it once or twice. So it's going to be a new experience for me again, and it just looks so good.
Yeah.
The graphics were stunning. I also think that they had a huge win with announcing a remaster of Final Fantasy VIII.
Mm-hmm.
So that looked good. My second winner for E3 was Nintendo. I think Nintendo hit it big. The Switch is becoming, more and more popular. They're not going to do anything with the Sony Xbox console war necessarily. They're going to stay, where their niche is. But their big announcement, obviously, that the Breath of the Wild sequel.
Yeah.
Breath of the Wild, one of the best games I've ever played. And I know this might actually upset some people, but I'm stoked that they're using the same Hyrule map. I thought it was a very well thought out map. It's immersive. I know that I have not even, and I traded in the game. I'm never going to get back to it. Even though I didn't 100% it, like how Nintendo wants me to, I 100% it in the way that, I got the most out of it.
Yeah.
But I know that I didn't even scratch the surface with what's in that game. I'm stoked for that sequel. I'm also really excited they announced what looks like a fun remake of Zelda Link's Awakening. Which looks really, really fun. And then, as an answer, even though it's coming out in just a couple weeks, Marvel Ultimate Alliance is a Switch exclusive, and they did a lot of gameplay footage from that. People are talking about it. There was at least 3 hours worth of footage of that game. Looks really fun, a throwback to the old Ultimate Alliance
Yeah.
games. A crazy roster of every hero you could possibly think about playing with, and which includes the X-Men, which is very exciting. I know the creators in Marvel and Nintendo were all very excited that they were adding the X-Men into there. So for me, like you said, Square Enix and Nintendo hit it out of the park.
Okay.
So how about your duds?
So my first dud is probably not going to really move the needle with a lot of people, but it does to me, and that is Star Wars Lego: The Skywalker Saga. Because I'll be honest with you, I was never a fan of the Lego games. I've tried playing one or two of them, and they're all the same thing. Like, they're cute.
I can't stand them.
They're cute little quirky games. They have this certain type of humor. There's no dialogue. It's all just these Lego characters acting in these movie scenes, and then they'll have like these semi-serious scenes where, like, and I saw a clip from the Skywalker Saga where Luke gets his hand cut off by Vader, and Vader just goes, "Ooh," and just like pulls off his hands, like shows it to Luke, like, "Yeah, I'm your dad because I'm missing my hand too, Luke." And like I saw somebody who said they played it and they said, "Oh, the gameplay is different," but I can't see how the gameplay is going to be that different from the other Lego games. I mean, and there's a shit ton of them. Like, there's Lego The Hobbit, Lego Harry Potter, there's other Lego Star Wars games, Lego Marvel crap. There's a ton of Lego games out there already, and I cannot see how this is, and this apparently is all 9 Star Wars movies. That's what this is. So this is going to be the Star Wars thing from episode 1 all the way to episode 9.
I downloaded one of the Lego Star Wars games. I played it for 5 minutes. I was like, I just can't. Like,
no, it's like, oh, get all these pieces and you can build stuff in the game. I'm like, this is boring.
If I want to build things, I'll go buy a Lego set. Like, I don't need it in a virtual world. I'll go buy a Star Wars Lego set.
And I mean, I'm sure some people out there like them, and I'm happy for
Kids
you
love
if you
them.
do. But yeah, and I'm sure kids do, and you know what? Fine. But to me, I was not excited at all when I heard about this. It just, as I said, it was just another Lego game, which I could give 2 craps about. So my second dud, and by God, they land, and I'm not the only person who thinks this, because I had to do because I don't normally watch any E3 stuff as it's going on. I kind of look at stuff after the fact, and I'm not the only person who thinks that they landed with a wet fart thud, or a wet thud of a fart, is Bethesda. Bethesda pretty much announced that they're adding for free NPCs to Fallout 76, something which should have been there in the first place. It's basically them just walking back the stuff that they should have had in the game at release, as well as they announced stuff with Elder Scrolls Online. Both Fallout 76 and Elder Scroll Online are like 2 of the most worst reviewed Bethesda games ever, and that's basically what they apparently showed off. Was, oh, we're adding NPCs. Oh, we're doing stuff with Elder Scrolls Online. It's like,
Bravo.
like, yeah, way to go, guys.
Yeah.
You took the game that was already garbage, and now you're adding something that should have been in there, and the game which most people don't even play.
Yeah. For me, even though we both gave Square Enix a win, I also put them in my dud category because of the Avengers. Not because I'm not excited by the game, and unlike a lot of people, I was excited by the footage.
Yeah.
There's all the news about what the game is going to be, right? Coming out now.
Yeah.
When this news should have been part of their announcement when they were on stage. Everybody was just left confused. Was that gameplay? Was that a cinematic trailer? Like, what were we seeing? I'm also, like many other people, disappointed by some of the costumes. I think that Iron Man's, I know there's going to be cosmetics that you can buy.
Yeah.
But his generic armor in the game looks like, it's from like the 50s, 60s comics. Thor's okay. I think Thor's probably the best of it. Hulk looks like Hulk. Captain America looks like a squad commando goon. And the fact that they said they're not going to change those costumes is a little annoying. I understand it because you're going to be able to unlock alternates and buy some, so that's fine. But I just wish that they had said, okay, the single player campaign is going to be exactly that. It's going to be a single player campaign.
It's only single player.
Yeah, it's only single player.
That's all the game is.
And I don't mind that.
Oh, I don't mind that either.
I like that the side missions are going to be where you could squad up and team up. But they should have announced this all on stage, and they didn't. So they were left with kind of like what was supposed to be their biggest announcement of the night, and people, and I think fairly, were more excited by Final Fantasy VII. I think that they really missed the mark on their on their announcement of Avengers. I'm hoping that, as it gets closer, it gains some traction.
I feel like, because I know that like a lot of people said like and I don't know if they announced this. It's essentially going to be Destiny, but with Marvel characters. Which okay, but then apparently, like, and I think I posted the link for it in the chat. Was it's going to be single player only.
Well, I think their idea, what they're saying is like they're gonna have like DLC, like Destiny, where it's like a new story, like new story stuff is gonna be coming out like for free, by the way, like at a good pace. So I think that's maybe what they meant. Again, it left a lot of people confused. No one really quite knows exactly what kind of game we're getting at the moment.
Yeah.
So, having said that, even though I think it is a dud, I'm excited by it. My other dud, I think, is one that Microsoft mentioned, Sony, because they weren't there.
Yeah.
I think that has to count as a dud, and Microsoft said it, at E3. They wish that Sony was there. It's not the same kind of show without them. They could have talked about the PlayStation 5. I know we were talking about this yesterday, that they have their own show coming up, just like just Marvel. Like Microsoft has their own show coming up, but Sony needs to be at E3. It's like, what's the point then? I know a lot of people are excited about Last of Us 2.
Yeah. I'll get to Sony. I trust me. I hadn't forgotten them.
So those are my two duds. Before we get to more E3, we are doing our code word, our keyword for our How to Train Your Dragon: The Hidden World giveaway, digital copy for that. The keyword is Stormfly, which is Astrid's dragon.
Look at you. Look at you with that knowledge.
I know. Well, I got to thank you for getting me into How to Train Your Dragon. So Stormfly is your keyword for a digital copy of How to Train Your Dragon: The Hidden World. You could tweet us the keyword. You can Facebook message it, or you could email the keyword to us at permittedpod@gmail.com. Matt, let's get back into E3. Anything else that you want to mention kind of in between?
I mean, honestly, like, I didn't put them as a dud, but also I considered putting Microsoft because I felt that they should have gone more, because they did announce the Project Scarlet Xbox and everything like that. But they should have gone in, because I know that Microsoft has some exclusive games that are even coming out this year, like the sequel to Ori and the Blind Forest, which I know I've talked about before, but it is a beautiful game. They should have gone more into that. They should have gone more into Project Scarlet. But as I know that we talked about, is that Sony and Microsoft both have their own independent conferences, which that tends to be where they do their formal announcement about specs and pricing and games and exclusives and stuff like that. So that's why I kind of left them off the duds aspect of that.
So getting into, kind of in between stuff, I think we talked about it a little bit in the car yesterday. I'm having the debate again whether to re-download and get into Destiny. I'm at the point, even though it's been the longest time I've never played it, I'm starting to miss it.
Yeah.
And I thought that Bungie was going to announce more about their free-to-play, because apparently Destiny is going to be going free-to-play.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about buying Forsaken finally and powering through that.
Yeah.
And, I really like the Hive stuff that they're going to be doing with Shadowkeep. So I thought that they would be, have more of a presence and be talking about Destiny. I was shocked not to see them there.
I think part of it boils down to the fact is that they've hinted at a lot of stuff that's to come, because that's one of the things I've always liked about Destiny, is that if you kind of have a keen eye about things, you can actually predict their next villains, their next big bads that are going to show up. Like, I actually called before Destiny 2 even came out that the Cabal Emperor was going to be the next big bad in the first raid, and that's what he ended up being.
Yeah.
I was a little bit off because it was Gaul, but the Emperor was the raid boss. And they've already kind of hinted that basically Oryx's sister, because there were three of them. There were three siblings. There was Oryx, there's Savathun, and there's another one I can't remember right now. But Savathun is basically like the Witch Queen, she's called. And I don't know if their DLC in the fall is going to be her, but I would not be surprised if it is her, because a lot of enemies you fight, especially in the more recent DLC, have like such of Savathun, like Song of Savathun and stuff that.
Yeah.
So to me, like, going back to the moon, which was like a hive locale in the first Destiny, it only makes sense for Savathun to finally make her appearance in the Destiny universe.
It'll be interesting to see, and it would be something that would 100% make me finally go back to the game, is if we go back to, I'm going to forget the name of the Leviathan.
Oh, you're talking about the Dreadnought?
The Dreadnought. because that would be huge. I feel like we barely got to explore it. So
Yeah, I mean, I'll be curious because to me, the Shadow Keep is like their way of doing a different Dreadnought, except it's on the moon.
Yeah.
Because, and I know I talked to you about this, is that a lot of the Destiny lore, which I find fascinating to read, like that's probably my favorite stuff about the game, is just reading all the flavor text that they've added into the game. And Savathun is already one of my most interesting villains because she isn't like kind of like Oryx, but she's different because while Oryx would occasionally talk, like Savathun is very talkative and will actually, and like a lot of the stuff, she talks a lot.
yeah.
And so that'd be interesting to see a villain like that in the Destiny universe.
We'll certainly see. I'm starting to get the itch to finally get back into it. To wrap up, who would you say was the biggest winner for E3?
The biggest winners, I actually have both Microsoft and Nintendo because both of them, like, I'm not going to say they were like amazing, blew my mind, but they did what they showed up and they did what they needed to do. Like Nintendo especially, I know is all about showing actual gameplay, and so I will, if you had to choose, I would probably give the edge to Nintendo because they actually showed more gameplay stuff.
Just because the world can't stop talking about him now, I'm giving it to Cyberpunk 2077 and Keanu Reeves because it created such a huge buzz. Obviously, like, I'm going to probably get the game. It's not something I'm terribly excited about like everybody else.
I'm so pumped.
Once I get it, I'll probably love it, but just seeing the reaction from it was amazing. There's all sorts of great Keanu Reeves memes now, going.
He's the internet's boyfriend.
He's Jesus apparently. So I give it to 20 Cyberpunk 2077. Biggest loser.
My biggest loser is Sony because for the first time in 24 years, they skipped E3. And the funny thing is that I've already seen like articles and videos from people saying Sony won E3 and they weren't even there. I'm like, how are you figuring this? Like they didn't show anything. Like that's like if I challenge you to a fight, be at the playground at 4:00
and you don't
and I'm not there. It's just like, oh, Matt fucking won this fight. He wasn't even there. That's how amazing he was. He would have whooped your ass if he'd been there, man. Like as you said earlier, like they have games that are coming out, like Last of Us 2. Like show something. Like you don't have to give away your entire hand of what you're going to do later in the year. You don't even need to really
talk about PS5. You have PSVR stuff you could have talked about. They have like so much down the pipeline.
Like to me, not showing up at like E3 is probably one of the biggest video game events of the year, and not showing up there to me is basically like in a way just admitting some kind of weakness. Like you don't like you're like, and I'm not saying that's true, but you're almost saying like we don't have enough to show off, or we're not proud of what we have that we're willing to show it off.
They are also my biggest loser, and I look at it in two ways. Either they did it because they're absolutely planning something major and huge at their own conference, and they want to just wow the world, or like you said, they didn't have enough, which I don't believe.
No, I don't believe that either, but that's the impression that they
because they didn't show up, they have to blow it out of the fucking park at their conference. They have to, because Microsoft laid like a golden egg, at E3. Like and listen, I'm a PlayStation guy.
Yeah.
And I was impressed with Microsoft. That doesn't mean I'm going to get the new Xbox.
No, I know. But the thing is that like, and I know a lot of people are like, well, Microsoft didn't really show off anything amazing. I'm like, yeah, because they have their own conference coming up. Like I don't know dates of any of this stuff, but like I know that Microsoft in the past up in Washington has had their own conferences to announce like stuff with the Xbox and stuff, things like that. So E3 is just like, hey, this is our mainstream stuff that you already kind of know about that's coming. So at their individual conferences is when you show off, like, this is our exclusive stuff. This is what you get with us. And as I said, like, Sony, just by not showing up to the dance, like, they're my loser.
Yeah, I think it was the wrong move for sure. Obviously, we'll be following. I think we're going to get the console big announcements in the fall.
Yep.
So keep listening for that. Also, obviously a lot of big games coming out in the fall, as well as
next year in 2020. I think around like March,
spring,
that's going to be a big hit to a lot of people's wallets. There's a lot of
games
coming out.
It certainly is. That does it for this year's E3. When we come back, we welcome Bill Tozzi to the show once again from the Cinescape to join us in doing our first ever classic casting call of the Indiana Jones Trilogy. That's coming up next. Stick around. Welcome back to Everything is Permitted. And before we introduce our next segment, we will introduce our guest from the Cinescape. Bill Tozzi is back on the show. Welcome back.
Thank you guys for having me. Delighted to be here.
Matt, this is yet another one of your brainchilds. You seem to come up with the good ideas, and I just give them fancy names.
Let's not call it good just yet, but...
I think it's a good idea.
Yeah.
It is the classic casting call, and your idea here was to start it right off with who?
With Indiana Jones.
And the whole entire trilogy.
The whole trilogy. I thought about doing one movie at a time, but then as I kind of looked at the casting, I'm like, trying to cast Nazi Goon number 2, that's not who gives a crap.
Nazi Goon number 2, Bill Tozzi.
But basically,
I just made you a Nazi. I'm really sorry.
My idea for this is this, and I know that some people might think that we would want them to remake a movie like Indiana Jones, and I don't. I really don't. But basically, my idea was, all right, you get a knock on the door, and basically it's Hollywood saying, guess what? We're remaking any of these movies, and we want you to pick who is, and you have the choice of any actor or actress working in the world today. So nobody who's dead or too old for the part or anything like that. At least that's just how I pictured it. But you basically will choose who is in this movie, and if you didn't choose it, it's going to be garbage no matter what. So you're trying your best to make it as good as you possibly can make it.
Bill, I want to talk to you real quick, because you actually, before we started recording, said that you almost didn't want to give it the satisfaction of recasting, because it's kind of like a very holy trilogy to a lot of people.
Yeah, I mean, Indiana Jones has like a special reservation for me, because like Temple of Doom, like I like it. It's probably, I wouldn't rank it as like my top indie movie. Raiders, like the whole franchise, like I'm not saying it's a great trilogy, but it's one that like holds a certain place in my childhood, growing up. So and now, like when I was putting my list together, I was really like, wow, there's a lot of turnover in Hollywood where there weren't too many actors that were like, I could see filling this role, either because they were too old or too young, that I'm like, I don't know at this point. So, I had some runners up that we can discuss for the main part. But ultimately, it's kind of like like the Batman movie that's going to be coming out
with Rob Pattinson,
where it's like, okay, like I know what he's done. Everybody associates him with Twilight, but the guy's gone on and did a lot of indie stuff that should add to his resume and should collect him some notoriety to be like, hey, this is somebody that has
quick
some
sidebar
solid,
on those
chops,
indies.
yeah.
Did you see that really weird ass movie he did called Cosmopolis?
No, honestly, I haven't seen any of his stuff, and I've been interested.
He plays a very almost Bruce Wayne type character who's like a billionaire, like hedge fund guy,
right?
And through the course of the movie, it just goes completely insane. It's a really messed up flick. I want to get right into this. You said you had a couple of runners up for the main role. Let's get right into the first character. We will go in a circle. Well, actually, we'll go in whatever order. Bill, you're our guest, so obviously we'll have you go first. We're starting with Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Okay.
Indiana Jones. Who do you replace Harrison Ford with, who actually went and said, no one ever recast me. The role dies with me.
That's a bold statement of him to make.
It is, which is bullshit in Hollywood.
But to say, like, movie studios will exist long after.
It's such
Harrison
a curmudgeon
Ford
thing to say. You're like, all right, old man, settle down.
Settle down. All right, Indiana Jones.
So yeah, I mean, this was who I would like to have in it, and then who I thought like would probably be. Ultimately, I thought I could see Tom Hardy being.
Interesting.
Indy, just kind of
that was a runner-up for me.
What I was trying to think was, I was like, Harrison Ford doesn't really smile a whole lot. So who can be kind of charming, also a dick, kind of like a hero but a badass at the same time, like kind of encompass a lot of different things, because that's where, like, I think you get stuck trying to replace Harrison Ford, is, like, he's just a very complex kind of guy to begin with. So who can kind of fill in those different levels?
It's someone that I would never have thought of, but you say it, and while he doesn't have the Harrison Ford look, he's definitely rugged, and...
He doesn't jump out at you, but, you can kind of see him doing the stunts and doing this and kind of... having a little bit of humor, but also, being a little smug at times.
Well,
So,
yeah, I think you and I were chatting on Facebook a few weeks ago when I was watching Venom and how
did your wife, she didn't see our conversation, did she?
that one she didn't see. Don't worry, but
right,
she
good.
listens to the show, so shut up.
Sorry, Garrett.
We'll talk about, because I know you had a runner-up possibly, and you had a runner-up. We'll do those if we had them, but Matt, do you want to do your pick?
Yeah, I'll do my pick. And Tom Hardy was actually a runner-up for me, funny enough, because
Okay, cool.
I had considered him as well, because I was going through a list of actors on IMDb, and I was like looking, I was like, no, I can't see. But my pick is Mr. Star-Lord himself, Chris Pratt.
And I think that's the popular choice for a lot of people.
Yeah, because to me, like Indiana Jones, because remember, there's those moments of like dark humor that he's involved in that not a lot of actors could pull off. Like from Raiders, for example, the whole thing with the vine when he's like, and then it starts sliding. He's like, oh god, and you're like that kind of moment. Somebody like, to me, like Chris Pratt could pull that off. Now, Chris Pratt might be too sunshine as to be Indiana Jones, because it was a valid point that Indiana is not really a happy guy. Like he's a very gruff.
Right, and with Chris Pratt, like I think he does the job well in certain scenarios, but like when I like think of him in like lead roles, like when I think back to like Jurassic World, like he's this character and I believe it, but then he just has moments where it's just like I see Parks and Rec, or like I see like I just those glimpses come out and it's like I see him more as this rather than this.
My biggest issue is that I could see Chris Pratt as Indiana Jones. I can't see Chris Pratt as Professor Jones. That's like where they're separated.
That's a valid point.
A little bit. But I mean, you never know. Maybe he could put his professor hat on. I don't know.
So, all right, Julian, you're up.
I was going over my list with Karen last night, and she definitely did not like my pick. And I think you were talking, Bill, about age a little bit.
Yeah,
He's bordering on maybe being a little bit too old for the role, but I don't think so. I went with John Hamm.
John Hamm.
He can be kind of like the professor teacher. He's a little rugged. He can grow a beard, and I think he's kind of a ladies' man too. And I don't think he minds getting his hands dirty a little bit. I could see him with the hat on. I could see him with the whip. I could see him, teaching some students about archaeology. I could see him in the role. I really could.
I mean, I'm not thrilled by that choice. I mean, like John Hamm, like from what I've seen him in, he's a good actor, but he's never someone that like stands out to me, and I always see him in those supporting roles. So I don't know how much gravitas like someone like that would bring to the role. I'm sure he could do well, but runner-up that I had that I was questioning in that same realm was like this guy. I know he could do the role, but he's up there in age and stuff like that, but, he's a ladies' man, and I think he can handle the action, was Hugh Jackman.
Huh. Yeah.
But he's, in his 50s now, and it's like, sure, he could, carry that role, and, he might be some, if Hollywood went in a direction like that, where, like, here's a guy who is in his 50s, but looks like, he could pass for late 30s, early 40s.
Yeah.
He, could handle the part, I believe.
All right.
You had a runner-up.
Mine was Tom Hardy.
I just think that, like, I just want to go back to my pick here because I feel the need to defend John Hamm. You're right. He hasn't had a lot of big roles. Like, I think the last movie I watched him in was that movie where he's like recruiting kids from India for the MLB.
What?
I know he's in Good Omens.
Clear History with Larry David.
The thing with John Hamm is, and this is going to be a funny thing to point out, I can't picture him gruff or like with.
There's
with
actually
stubble.
some great pictures of him on Google with a beard.
Really?
Yeah.
Because any role I've ever seen him, he's always clean shaven, and Indy always has like a 5 o'clock shadow, and that's how I picture him.
No, he could rock it pretty well. But I think obviously I had maybe not the best pick. I personally like it a lot. Who out of who we just talked about for Indy do we like the best here?
I think it'd be a
not
battle
John Hamm.
It would be a battle between I think Chris Pratt or Tom Hardy. That would be.
Tom Hardy's like the curveball for me. Like I didn't think
that's
about
a good
like
curveball. I really like that one. It's a tough call between those two for me.
Let's move on to Marion Ravenwood. Matt, we will start with you.
So with Marion, Marion was actually a tough one for me. I actually spent a while researching actresses about who I thought could fit into the role, and because Marion's obviously backstory is she was one of Indy's students, that they obviously had a relationship together. So I wanted to go with an actress who was a few years younger than my lead, than Chris Pratt, and maybe somebody who had kind of that same kind of gravelly voice. And so I went with Emma Stone.
She's my third runner up.
Yeah.
And I like it. I like it. Bill?
I went with an actress that, I tried to dig into how the character was portrayed in the movie. She could be Indy's what do you want to call it? I mean, just kind of little fling here and there where they had moments of flirtiness, but then, she's, right there with him getting into the action and stuff like that. And I mean, I didn't, the thing is when you look back at some of these characters and you're saying oh, they're in their 20s or whatever, I'm like, Karen Allen looks old.
She looks old in that role. She did not look like she was in her 20s.
Did not look like a spring chicken. But I went with Natalie Portman.
Huh.
Okay.
Also good.
Just thought, when you think of, action movies, people that can kind of hold their own, but also add, different layers to, to the performance and to the movie itself. I just thought she would be.
And she's been in roles like that before,
she always plays, a good, tag-on person where it's, we don't need you to lead this movie. Just, fill the role.
She'd be like a drunker Jane Foster. That shot-for-shot scene in Raiders is fucking brilliant. I had to make a game time decision who I was going to say first here, because I have two. I have a runner-up. And my first pick was not who I'm going to say first. My first pick is going to be Rachel McAdams. Rachel McAdams could be funny. She could be serious. She has great facial expressions, and even though, we both all said that she didn't look like she's in her 20s, I think Rachel McAdams is kind of the perfect in between, a young face, but she's a little wise of an actor. I really liked her in Doctor Strange, her whole, nurse thing with him.
This isn't a bad thing, but she's kind of basic in the sense where it's she her looks or her personality doesn't over exaggerate or kind of take away from, scenes or from other, actors and actresses, where it's you kind of add a certain parody to what's going on. So not that she flies under the radar, but it's you just kind of, you deliver what what you would expect. So
did you have a runner-up?
No, I didn't. As I said,
No.
Marion was a hard one for me.
My only other runner-up, and who was your first pick? Because she was a runner-up for me.
Emma
Stone was a third for me. I didn't put her on the list, but I looked at her as an option. My runner-up was Amy Adams, who I think is just a little bit too old for the role.
You got all basic bitches on your list.
Yeah, it is. I have the basic bitch cast.
I'm not I'm not saying anything bad about him, but I'm just generally not impressed.
Well, you guys are gonna love my Sala then, and we'll go to Sala, and because of that, I'll start.
Hit it up.
And I went with Saeed Badrera. He is an Egyptian actor. He's a big guy like John Rhys Davis. He's, if you know Iron Man, he's not the main baddie, but he's the main guy who was holding him hostage in the cave, the bigger dude with the beard who didn't speak any English.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay, I think I know.
He's been in other stuff, but I kept on going back to him. I thought about
he was in The Mummy, right? He was the guy picking the little
I think he
bugs off the wall.
He was young in The Mummy. Yeah. I didn't write him down, but I do have a runner-up. But Bill, I'll go back to you for Sala.
So I just mentioned The Mummy, so I went with Oded Fehr.
Yes.
He was the main...
The Magi.
The Magi guy. So went with him, just because I thought, he's got one of those looming personas that he doesn't need to say a whole lot or do a whole lot. Just he's there, delivers a couple lines, and, I think he would be a notable face that would be great to just see.
The only thing that made me kind of not think about putting him on my list is does he have the ability to be really funny? Because Salah's a funny character. He brings some comedic relief to the Indiana Jones.
Absolutely. There's guys over there around the other part of the world. You say something that an American writes for you, they're so dry humored. They don't have the personality, and they don't need that. They just need to say something that we're gonna write funny for them that they don't understand. and it's gonna be hilarious to everyone over here.
He's been in a bunch of stuff. And he's
like
really
Deuce
good.
Bigelow.
Yeah,
That's why I thought like for
Yeah,
the comedy
yeah,
aspect,
yeah.
like he could deliver some lines that would be funny in that regard.
So
Matt.
my pick is, and honestly, I'm probably not going to be able to really describe his background because I had to do a little bit of research on him. But his name is, and I'm probably gonna. He literally has like his name twice, and that's his name. It's Ahmed, who is a stand-up comedian. He deals with a lot of Muslim stereotypes. He is an American, but he has Egyptian birth. But to me, like as was discussed, Salah is kind of a little bit of a comedic relief character. And I need somebody who is going to be able to brings a little hint of that comedy to the role. And I know Ahmed he's been in a few movies. I can't rattle them off the top of my head.
No camel, Salah.
Matt, you knew who my backup is. I forget his name again.
Yeah,
for
I
the
can't
Daily
remember his
Show.
name because I considered him as
Hassan,
well.
Hassan
I
Manan,
don't. No,
or-
he basically the only way I know him is he's called like the Egyptian Jon Stewart.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's doing stand-up actually.
Yeah,
He's
he does.
really
around
funny.
here.
My problem is I think he's just
He's
a little bit
too over the
funny
top.
and like too much of a reimagining of the role.
Yeah.
So I decided not to go. Does anybody else have a Salah backup?
No.
All right, we're gonna move on to Marcus Brody. Bill, we'll start with you.
So I went with Hugh Laurie.
Hugh Laurie.
Ooh, that's
all right.
that's a good one. I like that one.
Just don't somebody that could offer that same similar like British humor and
I too went the British humor route and went with Colin Firth from
that was a backup
yeah
for me.
from
That was a
Kingsman.
backup.
I think he's actually got like I think he's kind of would be perfect for Marcus's voice if I remember Marcus's voice correctly. From
How
the
does one
movies.
get off this bloody
Yes,
thing?
Yeah.
That's
I think Colin Firth would be perfect in the role.
Brody's gonna blend in. He's gonna weave out. You're never gonna see
Can anybody
him.
understand
He'll
the
be
words?
gone before you even. Like I was like, Marcus Brody.
Oh god. So my guy is might be a little too heavy set to be Marcus Brody because now that I think about it, I think Brody was more of a slimmer
He was
guy,
a slim dude.
but I went with is it Stephen Fry or Stephen Fry, however you say it?
I know
He
who
basically
is.
he plays the brother in the Robert Downey Sherlock Holmes movies. He plays Sherlock's brother.
Oh,
the one who works
Mycroft?
Mycroft, yes,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about.
Because like I wanted somebody with some comedic chops who obviously has the English accent and stuff like that, who could and also be like the professor, like yes, of course, the museum will buy it for you.
And that's why I like Colin Firth, because Colin Firth could put on the series like that very quick, but Colin Firth is also absolutely hilarious.
Yeah.
But Hugh Laurie brings like a very
Hugh
dry
Laurie and Colin
humor.
Firth are
Right,
probably the
yeah.
better choices than the one I
Yeah.
rolled with.
I like the choices for Marcus a lot so far. Let's move on to the villains here. We are going to do Dr. Renee Bullock. Matt Belloc, sorry.
So my choice is he literally came to me just when I was going through the IMDb list when I was looking up actors, and that's Michael Fassbender.
Huh.
You need the aristocratic, like, oh, I have a vineyard, like, and Belloc is obviously French, and Fassbender, I'm sure, could easily portray the French accent and things like that. He can portray the aristocratic airs that Belloc had. So that I'm better than you.
I was trying to picture the character and things like that. So this one I had a little bit of trouble with. That's why I have in parentheses insert Baldwin brother here. But I also tried to nail it down. I put Cillian Murphy.
Okay.
Not a bad one.
Yeah.
I don't know how well
Little bit
that
of
would
a
match up, but
throwaway.
I just tried. Yeah, like the character didn't really stand out to me, so I was, Fassbender's obviously a much better.
Yeah.
well thought
I went
out, but-
German as well.
Yeah, German.
German. I went
Yeah.
with Christoph Waltz because he could easily do
That
French.
was a backup.
Yeah.
That was because I was like, I think
he's
he's
a snobby little bitch.
Yeah, I like Waltz to me. Like the reason I don't think I went with Waltz is like because, as I said, I tried to keep them
Typecast
close to the
kinda thing?
age of the actors.
I thought
when
Christoph was in that age range. No.
I'd have to check again, but
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that
He's more of like a Vogel if
Yeah. See,
if we're debating
I
that
went
and
back
that.
down and I was like, oh, but he could be a good Vogel too. But I like my Vogel pick as well. So we'll
we'll
obviously
get there.
when we get to did anybody have a backup for
Negative.
Belloc?
no, I think we're
Belloc. All right, on to the creepy Mad Hatted guy. Am I gonna butcher him? Major Arnold.
Arnold Tolt. Arnold Tolt. He's, in case you're wondering who he is, he's the Nazi with the glasses who has the very whiny
voice, and he like burns his hand right on the.
Yes, that's him. That's Major Todt.
Well, go ahead.
So I went with a German actor, and I had to write down his creds because I kind of did the research on him. His name is August Diehl. Now, if you don't know who he is, have you seen Inglourious Bastards?
Yes. Oh, I know.
Do you remember the bar scene when that one Nazi goes, "You held up your fingers like this"? That's August Diehl.
Okay.
Is it the bad Nazi or the guy who calls him?
He's
like,
the bad
you
Nazi.
Dirty Nazi prick.
He's
and
the
shoots him in
major.
the
He's the SS major who figures out.
Music, like, behind the wall, like
and he goes
away from the
like because he looked like a wormy dude in Inglourious Bastards, and I was like, that guy. If you put some glasses on him, you could do that. Like he could play a good Major Todt.
One of my like top 10 favorite movies, Inglourious Bastards. Love that.
So I pretty much tried to base this off of the face of the original actor that played it. So my first choice, but it probably won't happen, so you're probably going to be more looking at my runner-up, but my first choice would be Danny Trejo.
Danny Trejo.
This with
Black Thirsty Pinejo.
So
Heil Hitler, motherfucker.
I couldn't picture.
I mean, we could lighten his skin up a little bit to make him German. I mean, that happens nowadays.
Don't text.
But Javier Bardem was my runner-up.
Oh.
And I thought, just...
It'd be a little. I could see a little more Bardem, because Bardem can be that creepy ass.
Exactly.
Like, all right, he's.
So I pulled from. I went from the German pool again and went with Daniel Bruhl, who plays Zemo in Civil War.
He was a backup for another role.
He's very slimy. I think could do the role very, very well. Mm-hmm. That was my choice. Backups. Anybody for that?
No.
All right, well, that is our casting choice for Raiders of the Lost Ark, and we are going to move right on to Temple of Doom, my least favorite of the... I would say that's probably the least favorite of most Indiana Jones.
But the thing is, least favorite never means bad.
I'm not a huge fan of Temple of Doom.
Really?
Yeah.
I still love the movie, even if it's not the best of the
outside the
Indiana
realm of like Raiders and Last Crusade. I just... Yeah. We are going to start with Willie Scott, who was played originally by
Mrs. Steven Spielberg herself, Kate Capshaw.
That is correct. Bill, back to you. Willie Scott.
Sienna Miller.
Sienna Miller. I got to think of Sienna Miller.
I know the name. I'm trying to picture the face.
G.I. Joe. She was like
she was the
hot
Baroness.
chick.
She was the Baroness. Yeah. I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Interesting.
I just wanted like a hot chick to like run around with that was blonde.
So like I also had a little bit of trouble with this one because like I actually went and watched a couple of the scenes from Temple of Doom just to like look at Willie Scott, and God, I forgot how annoying she fucking was.
Part of the reason I hate the movie.
I know.
Well, not hate the movie.
So I actually picked an actress who probably is too good for this role, but I picked Blake Lively.
Blake Lively, okay, I think a little too attractive, and
a little too attractive, yeah. But I mean, and
we're not getting out of this temple.
And honestly, I don't know. Like, I mean, Blake Lively is a decent actress in her own right. I don't know if she'd be able to pull off the constantly whining Indy that shit. I don't know if she could do that.
Is why I went with Judy Greer.
Judy Greer, I can't picture her face.
If you've seen any comedy movie, she's likely in it. She was in Blockers. She does those commercials like for skin, like with her daughter.
I think I know what you're talking about. Was she in Parks and Rec as well? She was like the
maybe
from Washington.
I never watched Parks.
She was always like the annoying friend in like the early 2000s.
But
she
that's
was like what 13 going on 30. What women or what guys want or whatever.
She can be serious at the right moments, but otherwise she's a really funny actress and is known for playing like the annoying role.
That
was actually Karen's favorite pick of mine. Let's move on to Molaram Kalima. Matt, we'll start with you.
All right, so I had to do some research on this because the actor who played Molaram was Amrish Puri. He was like a renowned Bollywood actor for decades, even before Temple of Doom. So I stayed.
Are you
in
saying the Temple of Doom was
Prince
a Bollywood movie?
Yeah, a little bit, but I went with a famous Bollywood actor who's in his 50s, and his name is I might mispronounce it because it has two A's, but it's Amir Khan is his name. He's been in like numerous. He's played villains, he's played comedy, he's done like all sorts of stuff. If you see photos of the dude, he kind of has a little bit of the sunken eyes that Molaram that had in the movie, and so with a little makeup and shave his head, like he would probably look really good. Molaram.
I went with going just to get the look because this role doesn't require a whole lot of acting. I went with Farhan Tahir, who, if you don't remember,
I had
played
the same guy.
Yes.
The
first one of those. If you
Star
didn't know,
Trek,
he
Iron
played
Man 2.
Captain Rabaul in Star Trek.
But he has that like just
the perfect look.
Yeah, he's already got the shaved head. He already like in the eyes. He already looks like he's gonna kill you.
He was a backup for me actually. He was the captain in the Star Trek remake, right?
He was also
I got shish kebabbed.
Everybody assumed might be like the setup to be the Mandarin in Iron Man because he was the main guy holding Tony in that, but they went and did what they did with that. But yeah, so Farhan Tahir, and that was your pick as well. Did you have a backup?
No.
So 2 for Farhan Tahir. I like it. I think that's who you get for that.
That's
role.
what you get when you do the casting call over here with everything is permitted.
That's right. That's right. All right, let's move on. You said you had a lot of trouble.
I had a lot of trouble with this, man.
Short round.
The racist caricature who, like, honestly, if you made this movie today, there's no way Short Round could be anything like he was in this movie. But so I had to do a lot of digging, but I picked the actor's name is Forrest Wheeler. He is in the show Fresh Off the Boat. He is the middle child.
We have 2 Fresh Off the Boat actors.
Yeah.
How racist is that?
Well, the thing is, as I said, like I wanted, obviously I need an actor of Asian descent. I need them to be under 18. The closer to 10ish, the better. And Forrest Wheeler's 15, if I recall correctly. So that was my pick for Short Round.
Bill.
So I had a little trouble with this too. However, it's Hollywood, so what's going to make it easier is CGI, of course. So that's why my pick is Margaret Cho. So
Margaret Cho.
Really, first off, you don't need a boy, okay? We can, obviously replace it with a woman, okay? Nothing says there's anything wrong with that. However, really don't know too many Asian children under the age of 10 unless we go over to the pad thai place next door here.
Oh,
is Margaret Cho the comedian that's like really hot right now?
She's not hot.
No, I don't mean like attractive hot. I mean like she's like pretty big right now.
I've heard the name.
I think you're thinking of the chick that's on Netflix right now. Margaret Cho's like back from the 90s and stuff like that.
Yeah, Margaret Cho's been
But we're
going
to de-age Margaret Cho with current CGI technology.
Those dots on the face.
Yeah, absolutely. She's going to de-age her. The
technology that brought Gollum to life will bring Short Round to us.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm actually seeing if the internet works enough to see if...
Work internet.
Did you give your pick, Julian, for
I
Short
didn't.
Round?
Oh, okay. I could see it. My pick, also from Fresh Off the Boat, was the younger kid, because he's got the cheeks. He's got those cheeks. Hudson Young, also from Fresh Off the Boat. He just had the
You just
want
to pinch him.
I picked a young Asian kid. I mean, that's what I did.
I mean, that's the unfortunate answer I can give with this choice, just because I
could have reimagined the role and made it like a young whiny white boy. I could have made it an African American boy. I could have made it a little Indian boy. It could have been anyone, but Short Round is Short Round. So, I don't know. Temple of Doom is garbage, in my opinion.
God, you can go to hell.
Oh, you like Temple of Doom that
I
much?
love Temple of Doom. Come on, dude. All right, I'm just putting this out there before we move on, but I watched the bridge scene and just once I was struck by, and also the rail car scene, as insane as it is, it's awesome. It screamed to my inner kid and just basically grabbed me like, this is awesome, Matt.
Indy, I love you. I hate that.
Yeah, that Short Round, honestly, if you remove Short Round, probably would make the movie a little better.
I don't know. Let's move on to my personal favorite out of the trilogy, The Last Crusade. And Bill, we'll come back to you.
Okay.
For Henry Jones, Indy's dad.
Junior.
We named the bloody dog Indiana.
Jehovah starts with an I.
All right, so who's up first?
We're going back to Bill for
starting with
Henry Jones.
I have Jeremy Irons.
Ooh, okay. A little serious.
Yeah.
Does he do a lot of comedy? I feel like Henry Jones was definitely the comedic relief of that movie.
Yeah, I mean, see what he can do.
So yeah, give him the chance.
I thought, he's, had moments in other movies where, he can, demonstrate that, like in Die Hard with a Vengeance. Like, I thought he was menacing, but he was also toying with John McClane the entire time. So
great movie.
I thought he could,
It's my favorite Die Hard.
And especially like as actors get older, like you just care less. So maybe he would just be like Sean Connery and just I'm going to use my salamander, like that kind of shit.
All right. Jeremy Irons. Matt, to you.
I went with Ray Fiennes.
Ray Fiennes. Okay. I feel like these are two very serious picks.
Yeah, I'm Ray Fiennes.
Well, Ray Fiennes has done like some more comedy-based movies years ago. He was in the years ago. Actually, it was a movie with Sean Connery, the Avengers. Funny enough, based on
the British Avengers, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Which is a horrible.
Oh, hey, honey, look, Avengers is on TV. Click. It's the other Avengers that I don't even
Oh my
care
God!
about.
It's Uma Thurman and Ray Fiennes.
I went with Brian Cox, who is a great British actor, has been in everything, both American and English, can be very serious and be absolutely hilarious. He's kind of a little bit of a bigger guy. I see him as Indy's dad. I don't know.
Picture him. Who
I
is
can't.
he?
The thing with Brian
pull him
Cox
up
is that
right
I
here.
can't. He was in Super Troopers. He was the head trooper. Give me the goddamn soap. That's Brian
Okay.
Cox. The thing is that like this was actually a tough choice for me to like do the research on this, just because I was like, man, Sean Connery is just like so iconic in it. I was like,
It's hard to replace him.
like who actually could do that bridge of like the serious, because I mean, just think about it. The guy who's going to do the serious moments like in the beginning of like, oh, say the alphabet in Greek, and is also the guy who's going to take an umbrella and go going down the beach shooting a bunch of seagulls into a German fighter plane. So
Yeah, I we'll talk about this in the end, because some of these are definitely harder. We're gonna go with Dr. Elsa Schneider, and I'm gonna cheat here and go first because I know everybody's gonna have the same actress. I went with Diane Kruger.
nope.
Ooh,
You might actually agree with my choice.
Diane Kruger is like, I think, the exact person that they would cast if they were like, okay, recast. Also in Inglourious Bastards as well. She's been in a lot of stuff.
She was the actress in Inglourious Basterds.
She was the actress in Inglourious Bastards.
I think I had considered her, but then I settled on somebody who's definitely got more acting chops, Margot Robbie. Because Margot Robbie she's a very good actress. She falls into the role. I think she could play Elsa Schneider.
I just don't know if she could like do the turn, like the
I think she
evil
could.
turn.
I
don't
think
know.
she could.
It's an interesting choice.
So I didn't just go with blondes here.
Oh, okay.
All right.
All right.
Shade at us. All right.
We're the assholes here.
So I went with Helena Bonham Carter. So I thought that she's someone that, she's, got a certain sex appeal to her, but, can do that heel turn and, and flip on somebody like that. And if she wants to pump it up and really go nuts, like, she can look kind of nuts, which, Elsa Schneider kind of does in a couple scenes where she really shows her, batshit crazy side.
I actually like the choice. My only problem is I can only see her as like a bad guy. Like she has that kind of like, even though she does have a weird kind of sexiness to her, that slimy look. I mean, all I think of is like Harry Potter.
That slimy chick
she's
at the end of the bar,
like she's
her
like a snake.
right there.
Like she's Slytherin, man. She's Slytherin.
You slimy German.
God. Oh, okay. Let's move on to we're going down to the villains of the film. Walter Donovan. Bill, we'll start with you.
So I picked an actor that, this role kind of was, very similar to Belloc in that regard. However, the actor that played Donovan, I forget his name offhand right now, but he was pretty. He had a pretty solid career back in the day. You
Julian
saw him in a lot of
Glover
things.
is his name.
It was Julian, not
Yeah,
Julian
I
Glover,
have-
something Glover. Was
No,
it?
it's Julian Glover.
It is Julian Glover.
Because I wrote all the originals actors' names next
Smart.
to the roles
You
on my thing here.
So I went with an actor that I thought, you could see in, a small role like this, but deliver the kind of punch that you would want. So I went with Michael Keaton.
Huh.
That's actually
I like it.
Not a bad
I
one.
like it.
Not a bad choice there.
I definitely wanted, because Donovan is American, so I wanted to make sure we're sticking with an American actor for the specific.
Julian Glover is actually English.
Julian Glover, but that
English.
the character was American.
The filthy Brits play a lot of American roles.
I'm English.
Spider-Man's been English. Batman's been English. I mean, we can go on and on.
They're taking our jobs.
They,
Sorry, Julian. Go.
Walter Donovan. I picked Edward Norton, can play a bad guy. I think about his role from the remake of The Italian Job, kind of just a dick. And Walter Donovan was a dick, and Edward Norton could play a dick really well. Even when he's playing a good guy, he's a dick. So I did have a runner-up. Did anybody have runner-ups for this?
No.
My other choice was William Hurt.
William Hurt, I could see. I actually like a little bit more than so I actually like William Hurt a little more. So all right. So for my pick, I stayed in the UK with my actor.
Oh, okay.
And all right, as you know, Donovan is a dick, everything like that. He's like kind of like Belloc. He's a little bit aristocratic. So I need a guy who could play that, and I got Jude Law.
Huh.
Because I could see, because like one of the biggest scenes in my head when I was picking Donovan is I need to see this guy age quickly and die in front of me. And Jude Law, that needs to happen. I need to see a computer thing of him just dying.
All right, on to the last bad guy from Last Crusade, Colonel Vogel. Bill, back to you.
Willem Dafoe.
Okay.
All right,
Yeah.
that's not a bad one.
Yeah.
Just thought somebody that has that look and that presence about him that just looks gentleman evil.
So I'm actually going back to Inglourious Bastards for this one. At least I'm 90% sure I didn't write down his background, unfortunately, for some reason. But Till Schweiger, his name is.
And he was the guy.
He was the guy who killed. He was the German who killed Nazis.
Yes.
Stiglitz.
Yes.
Yes, that was him.
He was someone I was considering. I didn't write him down as an official backup. I decided to go English with the role, but again, for that kind of like that German Nazi like look.
Fun fact that just as a quick aside, the actor who played he's English. He's also English.
It's the Brits.
They were all
Brits.
They were all over this trilogy, man.
I went with Sam Neill.
I considered him. I considered him for I think Donovan actually, but he was a little too old though.
Yes, and that's what I wanted to say. I actually considered Christoph Waltz for Vogel instead, but I like Sam Neill in the role better. Mm-hmm. Finally, we will end our classic casting call with recasting young Indiana Jones. Matt?
So I went to Stranger Things with Noah Schnapp, I think is how you say his name. I forget what role he plays, but this was another hard one for me because River Phoenix is actually pretty iconic in that role, even though it was just literally that whole opening scene and that was it. So I actually has a tough choice. I'd be willing to change with this one, but that was basically who I picked. So I wanted somebody young, like a sub 20, kind of like too old to be a Boy Scout, but not old enough to be a man. So
I went from Shazam. I chose not Billy Batson, the kid who played Billy Batson, but the kid who played his friend. I went with Jack Dylan Grazer,
okay,
who I thought was very good, and I could very much see it. And I also took into account, does this kid look like a young John Hamm? And he kind of can and does. So Jack Dylan Grazer for me. And Bill, since you are our guest, we will end our.
This was kind of hard, and so I feel like I might have conceded a little bit. But any one of the Jonas Brothers, you could just really throw into this role.
They all have that jawline.
Yeah, chiseled a little bit. You throw them in there. They're all very youthful looking. Maybe old Joe Jonas or something.
I'm not gonna lie. I actually think it works.
I mean, like honestly, there's no real bad choices.
So that does it for the classic casting call. And I will say, after going through all of our picks and doing this segment, this is very good kind of to what you said, that they just shouldn't remake these movies. Like, no one would ever be able to fill these roles properly, in my opinion.
Because, I mean, like, look at our casting. Like, we all have, like, star-studded acting going on here.
There was literally one overlap for one role.
I'm shocked by that. I really am shocked by that. But I thought it was a good overlap to have. So that does it for our first ever classic casting call. Bill, if you hated doing the Indiana Jones trilogy, you're going to hate us even more because we thought that the natural progression for our next one will be Star Wars. So maybe if you don't want to do that, don't come on the show. But we certainly enjoyed having you for this. Bill, who
can play R2-D2? Well, I googled top midget actors.
Warwick Davis is still around. But Bill, we appreciate having you on once again. Yes. Where can we catch the Cinescape?
You can catch us online at thecinescape.com. Find us on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Spotify, iTunes, maybe just lurking outside of your house late at night in the bushes. I mean,
That's a great
could
way
be
to
anywhere.
Was that you out there
scare
last
some-
night?
Scare the
'Cause-
hell out of someone
Yeah.
to listen
Hey,
to your show.
Cinescape!
Yeah. Listen now, or I'll kill your family. That's actually going to do it for our show. We will be back next week. We have, if you like this segment, we're coming back with our second edition of
Oh God, Raiders of the Bargain Bin.
Raiders of the Bargain Bin.
Help us.
Brittany Tomes, our social media coordinator, will be joining us for that as well and helping us pick that movie. So we have that, and then Matt's going to be sitting down and doing a roundtable with our friends Vince Spiritoso and Greg Spurgeon to talk about Bungie and where they were before Halo and Destiny. I think you guys are going to be talking a whole lot of myth.
Yes.
So
Myth
have
and a couple
that to
others.
look forward to. That's it for this episode. We'll see you next week. Have a good night.
Fire flames